many other states still too close to call. States that really Hillary Clinton should be winning and was predicted just before the poll, Americans went to the polls to be winning it, including, of course, that all-important state of Florida. Now, we know Hillary Clinton is watching the returns in a hotel in Manhattan, just a few blocks, in fact, from Trump Tower, where Donald Trump is also watching the returns. She will be heading here soon, though, well, whether she will be giving a concession speech or a victory speech really is up in the air right now.
I'll hear you. Very much indeed for that. Let me ask you a question. I was talking to one Democrat a couple of hours ago, before this became the nail-biter that it's become, and he was suggesting that Hillary Clinton would be mistaken to view her election to the presidency as any kind of infused mandate by American voters. I mean, that has to be even more true now, doesn't it? They never thought that this was going to be this close. Hillary Clinton up against Donald Trump, and now battling it out for a handful of thousand votes in each of these battleground states.
Well, as you say, it does seem to be a testament to the controversial nature of her candidacy. And this is someone who, as Democrats are often quick to point out, did have very high approval ratings when she was Secretary of State and just afterwards. But since then, she really has been tainted by scandal. And indeed, if she does go on to lose tonight, I think her campaign may well want to blame the FBI, at least in part, for what happened. And that announcement, that bombshell announcement, just 11 days ago, by James Comey, that they were looking into a new batch of emails, which certainly didn't help her in the trustworthiness stakes as Americans were going to the polls, and indeed going to the polls in early voting. Would counter by saying, actually, there hasn't been enough coverage of the many, many women in particular who have been hugely enthused by her candidacy. In fact, we've seen many women across the US going to vote in pantsuits, that is trouser suits, in homage to Hillary Clinton's favourite items of clothing. Many shedding tears as they cast a ballot for someone they hope to be America's first female president. But as you say, that is now looking very much in the balance and not nearly as easy a victory as many would have predicted.
Lorna, thanks very much. Interesting that you reference pantsuits. One of the voters turning up at the polls today in a white pantsuit, very much one of Hillary Clinton's hallmarks, was none other than Cindy McCain, the wife of former Republican presidential candidate Senator John McCain out there in Arizona. And many of us wondered, given that John McCain certainly isn't backing Donald Trump for the presidency, whether Cindy McCain was trying to send everybody a message about her voting intentions. I want to turn now to not the presidential campaign, but the issue of the congressional elections, because remember, while we wait to find out who's going to occupy that building behind me starting next January, we're also waiting to find out the disposition of the House of Representatives and the US Senate. The entire House of Representatives up for grabs. 1/3 of the seats in the US Senate up for grabs, and joining me now is my colleague Harry Horton, who's following all of these congressional races. And Harry, is there any indication that the Democrats at this point can live in hope of flipping the Senate and taking control of it from the Republicans, or is the best case scenario for them now a Hillary Clinton presidency, maybe, with the Republicans still controlling both houses?
Well, you'll recall earlier tonight the Democrats' dream, and they were quite confident of this, was that Hillary Clinton was going to win the race for the White House and become America's next president, and they were going to take back control of the Senate. And to do that, they would need to win back 5 seats from the Republicans to gain overall control of the Senate. So far, they've managed to flip 1 seat in Illinois. The other races are looking incredibly tight, but what we've seen is as Donald Trump's chances of winning the White House have increased, and as he seemed to be performing better than expected in several key swing states across the country, we've seen these Senate races, the Republicans are performing better than expected as well. And the New York Times survey that you quoted earlier that gives Donald Trump now a 59% chance of winning the White House. Well, the Senate race, the Republicans have more than an 80% chance of winning that Senate race. So really, it's looking like the Senate is lost as well as the House for Democrats.
But to use an overworked adjective, this is extraordinary. I mean, we have all been pondering for the last several weeks whether Donald Trump had, as they call them here in America, sufficient coattails to help Republican candidates in the US Senate, or whether there was going to be some disparity there. But now we're wondering whether Hillary Clinton's got any coattails to help those candidates from flipping control of the Senate.
Absolutely, and interestingly, in some of the races in New Hampshire, for example, and in Pennsylvania, in the results we've seen come in so far, the Democratic Senate candidates there are performing better than Hillary Clinton is in the polls. So the evidence suggests, in fact, that the Senate candidates are outperforming Hillary Clinton, and perhaps some Democrat voters who were happy to back their Senate candidates couldn't bring themselves to vote for Hillary Clinton to be president, and we're certainly seeing evidence of that in the White House race tonight.
Which, as Harry knows very well, is testament to the fact that both of these candidates have huge negatives, and there are large numbers of the American public that fault both of them, and for many of those voters, today's choice was a choice between the lesser of two evils.